Perform a normal takeoff and climb in a Cessna 172 like a pro. Flawlessly execute a normal takeoff and climb by understanding these simple but crucial standard procedures. At first, you'll perform the standard takeoff more often than not, so commit to memorizing best practices and airspeeds and you'll be flying high in no time. At all times, you will review your checklist while maintaining situational awareness. As a safe and professional pilot, even in training, you'll ensure that all necessary checklists have been completed prior to arrival at the hold short line of the runway of intended departure. Once at the hold short line, take a look at your checklist and ensure that the lineup portion of the checklist is completed. Your trim should be set. A normal takeoff will be conducted with 0 degrees flaps. Your flight instruments and standby instruments should be checked for accuracy at an airspeed indicating 0, and your altimeter should read within 75 feet of field elevation. Now's the time to set your heading bug and altitude bug. Your fuel selector should be set to both. Finally, all doors and windows must be closed and latched. Having completed the lineup checklist, you will contact the control tower for departure clearance, and at non-towered airports, you'll make a radio call informing other traffic of your intention to depart. It'll sound something like this: Sanford Tower, Skyhawk November 722, holding short of runway 9 left at Bravo.
Ready for departure.
Warning: many pilots rush and forget this critical step. Remember, as the pilot flying the aircraft, you must always ensure that the final approach is clear at both towered and especially non-towered airports. Once you're cleared for departure, taxi the aircraft into position centered on the runway. As you taxi onto the runway, you'll complete the remaining lineup checklist items. This is the lights, camera, action part of your lineup checklist. Make sure that your mixture is now set to full rich. Turn on all external lights. Check your transponder and note your time off. Caution: slow and steady around those turns. Fast taxi turns immediately prior to takeoff should be avoided to prevent any possible fuel system uncording which could lead to engine stoppage on takeoff. Smoothly apply full power and state out loud,
Full power.
As the aircraft accelerates, check each engine instrument, ensuring that all are displaying an appropriate reading and that the engine is producing 100% power at sea level. Confirm this by saying, airspeed is alive. Engine gauge is normal, if appropriate. It's extremely important at this point to counteract the left-turning tendencies of the aircraft on takeoff. You'll need significant right rudder on your takeoff roll. Utilize rudder pedal steering to maintain the runway center line. Keep your hand on the throttle. In the event an aborted takeoff becomes necessary, you should be able to stop as soon as possible. At 55 knots, maximum gross weight, use the call-out VR. Rotating. And smoothly rotate, lifting the nose off of the ground as you establish a VY climb attitude to obtain 74 knots. Ensure that a ground track along the runway and extended runway centerline is maintained by use of coordinated rudder and aileron control inputs. Don't hesitate to glance over your shoulder to see the view behind you. Remember, you'll have limited visibility in a nose-high attitude. At 500 feet above ground level, initiate the climb checklist. Establish a climb attitude for an airspeed of 80 knots and ensure the appropriate power setting. It should be set to full power. Let's review this challenge response climb checklist. Flaps, flaps up, climb power, set, mixture, full rich. Be sure to lean the mixture for max RPMs above 3,000 feet mean sea level. Engine instruments, check. Transponder, alt. Once the list has been reviewed, say aloud,
Climb checklist complete.
One final important note. During gusty wind conditions, climb speed should be increased by 1/2 the gust factor. For example, if the climb speed is 85 knots and the winds are at 15 knots and gusts are 25 knots, your adjusted climb speed will be 90 knots. If you're expecting an obstacle at the end of the runway, consider using the VX or best angle of climb airspeed. Your best angle of climb is the true airspeed that allows an aircraft to gain the most amount of altitude in the shortest distance across the ground. Review these procedures often and remember your callouts. Have a fantastic and most of all, safe flight.